There's a saying we all know, actions speak louder than words. But there's another truth most people overlook: silence is also an answer. In a world where everybody's talking, posting, arguing, and reacting, we've started to believe that if we don't respond, we're weak. If we don't clap back, we've lost. If we don't explain ourselves, we're guilty. But let me tell you something. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. Silence protects your peace because it gives you the power to choose where your energy goes. Every time someone says something reckless, throws shade, or tries to drag you into drama, you have a decision to make. Do I respond and let this live in my spirit, or do I stay quiet and let it die right here? See, a lot of people think winning is about having the last word. But sometimes the real victory is having no word at all. When you learn to be silent in the face of foolishness, you're not being weak. You're being wise. You're saying, my peace is too expensive to spend on this. Think about how drained you feel after arguing with somebody who never really wanted to understand you in the first place. They don't listen. They twist your words. They bring up the past, and suddenly you're defending things you shouldn't have to defend. Your mood is gone. Your whole day is thrown off. And for what? To prove a point to somebody who was committed to misunderstanding you from the start. That's too high a price. Silence is your way of saying, I refuse to fund this chaos with my emotions. When you choose silence instead of reacting, you create space between their behavior and your response. In that space, you get your power back. You can ask yourself, is this worth it? Is this aligned with who I'm trying to become? Is this helping my future or just feeding my ego right now? Most of the time, if you're honest, the answer is no. And that's when silence becomes your answer. You're not ignoring the situation. You're choosing not to let it own you. There are people out there who live off reactions. They poke at you. They test you. They gossip about you just to see you explode. Your anger is entertainment for them. Your pain is a show. When you stop giving them that reaction, you take away their power. They may call you cold, distant, fake, or arrogant because you won't play their game anymore. Let them talk. Your silence is telling them, this game is over. Find another player. Silence also protects your peace by cutting off the endless cycle of explanations. Some of you are tired because you've spent years trying to explain your heart, your decisions, your boundaries, your goals to people who are not even trying to see you. You write long messages, you give second chances, third chances, you talk in circles, hoping that this time they'll finally get it. But here's the truth. People who want to understand you will ask, listen, and adjust. People who don't want to understand you will argue, blame, and repeat. Silence is what you choose when you realize your words are being wasted. You stop explaining and start exiting quietly. Your peace is also protected when you refuse to answer every rumor and defend yourself against every lie. The more you talk, the more material you give people to twist. There are times when you just have to trust that your character, your consistency, and your results will speak louder than any statement you could put out. You let folks say what they want, and you stay focused on your work, your growth, your calling. Silence in that moment is your way of saying, I know who I am, and I know where I'm going. I don't need your approval to be me. And understand this silence is not always about other people. Sometimes silence is how you protect your peace from yourself. There are moments when you're angry, hurt, or frustrated, and if you speak in that state, you'll say things you can't take back. You'll send that text, make that call, post that comment, and later you'll wish you could erase it all. Silence gives your emotions time to calm down so your wisdom can catch up. It's you telling yourself, not every feeling needs to be spoken. Not every thought needs to be shared. In the end, choosing silence to protect your peace is about knowing your value. You are too important to be at war with everyone every day. You are not required to attend every argument you're invited to. You're allowed to say nothing, walk away, and keep your spirit unbothered. that quiet choice, that calm decision not to respond. That is you answering loud and clear, my peace comes first. Silence sets your boundaries because it sends a clear message without you having to waste breath, energy, or emotion. You don't always need a long speech, a big confrontation, or a dramatic exit to let someone know they've crossed the line. Sometimes, the moment you stop replying, stop explaining, stop engaging, that's when they finally realize they no longer have the same access to you. Your silence becomes the line in the sand. You teach people how to treat you by what you respond to. If every time someone disrespects you, you argue with them for hours, you're still giving them your time. You're still picking up the phone. You're still making them a priority. To them, that means I can keep doing this and they'll still show up. But when you choose silence, no more debates, no more back and forth, no more long texts, your lack of response says, this behavior doesn't get access to me anymore. There are times when you've explained your feelings over and over. You've said, this hurts me. This disrespects me. This is not okay. They apologize, promise to change, and then go right back to doing the same thing. Words aren't the problem. Behavior is. At that point, repeating yourself just becomes background noise. Silence is you refusing to repeat a lesson someone is pretending not to learn. You stop talking and let distance deliver the message. Boundaries don't always have to be loud. You don't have to announce, I'm cutting you off, I'm done with you, or I'm leaving this situation. You just slowly stop giving them what they've been taking for granted. Your time, your attention, your emotional labor. You don't show up to every argument. You don't answer every late night call. You don't jump every time they snap their fingers. Your silence communicates, I'm not available for this version of you. Silence is also a boundary with people who only come around when they need something. They never check on you, never support you, never show up when you're down. But the moment they're in trouble, your phone lights up. You used to respond instantly, dropping everything to rescue them. Now, your silence says, I am not your emergency exit when you've ignored me the entire time the building was fine. You don't have to be mean. You just stop being always available. Sometimes the hardest boundary to set is with family or close friends because the history and love are real. You feel guilty pulling back even when their behavior is toxic, controlling, or dismissive. But silence can be your way of saying, I love you, but I love me too. I won't keep participating in conversations that belittle me, dismiss my feelings, or disrespect my life choices. You answer less, stay shorter on the phone, leave the room when it turns negative. You're not cutting them out of your life. You're cutting off the part that keeps wounding you. Silence also works as a boundary in conflict. When a discussion stops being about understanding and turns into yelling, name calling, or emotional manipulation, your silence is you stepping out of that ring. You can say, I'm not doing this, and then stop responding. No more explaining your side to someone who's not listening. No more defending yourself to someone who just wants to win. Your quiet refusal to keep arguing says, if we can't talk with respect, we won't talk at all. On social media, at work, in your community, silence can protect your boundaries too. You don't have to answer every rude comment, every shady post, every microaggression. You don't have to clap back to prove you're strong. Real strength is knowing you don't exist to entertain ignorance. Ignoring it, not feeding it, is your way of saying, you are not important enough to disturb my spirit. And remember, a boundary is not about controlling others. It's about controlling yourself. You can't make people respect you, but you can decide how much access they get when they don't. Silence is one of the tools you use to enforce that decision. When you stop arguing, stop chasing, stop over-explaining, you're not being cold, you're honoring your own worth. Your silence says, this is my line. If you can't step up, you won't step closer. Silence reveals people's true intentions because when you stop talking, you stop carrying the relationship by yourself. As long as you're the one always calling, always texting, always checking in, always fixing, it can look like everything is fine. But the moment you go quiet, you start to see who was actually there for you and who was just there for what you could give. When you pull your energy back, you get the clearest picture of who's really invested and who was just along for the ride. Think about how many relationships survive only because one person refuses to let them die. You're the one apologizing first, even when you weren't wrong. You're the one smoothing things over, reaching out after every disagreement, making excuses for their behavior. So it feels like we always find a way back to each other. But the truth might be, I always pull us back together. When you choose silence, no reaching out, no chasing, no being the hero, you learn fast who's willing to meet you halfway. If the relationship goes quiet and they don't come looking for you, that silence is your answer. Silence also reveals who actually cares about your well-being and who only cares about your availability. When you stop pouring into people for a while, some will ask, "Are you okay? I haven't heard from you." Others will ask, "Where you been? I needed something." See the difference? One is checking on your heart. The other is checking on their access. When you step back and watch how people respond to your absence, you find out who loves you and who loves using you. When you go silent, people show you their habits. The ones who have always relied on your constant presence may get angry, call you selfish, distant, or changed. They're not mad because you're wrong. They're mad because your silence is forcing them to adjust, to do some work, or to face the truth that they were taking you for granted. Others will quietly respect your space, then show up gently. "If you need anything, I'm here." No pressure, no guilt, just care. The contrast becomes clear once you stop filling in all the gaps with your words and effort. Silence also exposes intentions in romantic relationships. If you stop texting first, stop double texting, stop chasing someone who's always busy, you quickly see where you stand. If they never reach out, you were never a priority, just a convenience. If they only respond when you finally break your silence, you see they're not afraid of losing you. They're just afraid of losing control. But when your quiet causes someone to step up, communicate better, and actually ask what's going on, that shows there's something real worth working on. In friendships, silence shows you who's really a friend and who's just a companion of convenience. The friend who reaches out after a while and says, "You've been quiet, is everything good?" is different from the one who disappears the minute you stop entertaining them. Some friendships only survive because you're the entertainment, the listener, the fixer, the one who makes all the plans. When you stop being the engine, you discover who was actually walking with you and who was just along for the ride. Even in family, silence reveals patterns. You might notice that the only time some relatives call is when they need money, favors, or someone to unload their problems on. If you go quiet, they might not check on you at all. That doesn't mean you don't love them. It means you finally see the role they've assigned you. Your silence gives you clarity about what they expect from you versus what you actually need from them. Most of all, silence reveals alignment. The people who are truly aligned with your growth will not vanish just because you're not as talkative or available. They'll feel the shift, reach out, respect your process, and still be there. The ones who fall away were attached to a version of you that served them. Your silence doesn't break real relationships. It only breaks the illusions around the fake ones. Silence helps you hear what really matters because it cuts through the noise that surrounds you and the noise that lives inside you. Every day you are hit with 1,000 voices, social media, friends, family, coworkers, the news, your own fears, your doubts, your insecurities. Everybody has an opinion about who you should be, what you should do, how fast you should move, and which path is right. If you're not careful, you end up living your whole life reacting to outside voices instead of responding to your own calling. Silence is the moment you hit pause on all of that and ask, What do I really think? What do I really want? What is God or my own spirit trying to tell me? When you stop talking for a while, no arguing, no defending, no explaining, you give your mind a chance to settle. At first, silence can feel uncomfortable. You reach for your phone, turn on music, scroll, call someone, anything to fill the quiet. But if you sit in it long enough, the junk at the surface starts to fall away. The anxiety, the defensiveness, the need to be right, the urge to clap back, all of that starts to calm down. Underneath that noise is a softer, steadier voice. That voice is your intuition, your wisdom, your deeper self. It rarely yells. It usually whispers. You can only hear it when you're willing to be quiet. In silence, decisions become clearer. When you're rushed, pressured, or emotional, everything feels urgent. You feel like, I have to answer now. I have to decide now. I have to react now. That's how people and problems control you. But when you step back into silence, even for a few minutes, you get to ask better questions. If I say yes to this, what am I saying no to? Will this matter in 5 years? Am I doing this out of fear or out of faith? Out of pressure or out of purpose? The answers don't come from the crowd. They come from inside you, in the quiet. For those who believe in God or a higher power, silence is where you often hear that guidance most clearly. Not in the chaos, not in the argument, not in the noise, but in the still moments when you're honest and open. You sit, you breathe, you drop the mask, and you say, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm listening. In that space, ideas come, peace comes, direction comes. Sometimes not in full detail, but enough light for the next step. Silence also reveals what's been weighing on your heart that you've been too busy to notice. When you're always talking, working, texting, performing, you can ignore your own pain. But in the quiet, certain thoughts keep coming back, that dream you buried, that relationship that's hurting you, that habit that's draining you, that boundary you know you need to set. Silence is like a mirror held up to your soul. It doesn't lie to you. It shows you what needs healing, what needs changing, and what needs to be released. On top of that, silence sharpens your ability to listen to others. When you practice being quiet, not just waiting for your turn to talk, but truly listening, you start to hear what people are actually saying behind their words. You hear the fear behind the anger, the insecurity behind the bragging, the pain behind the attitude. You respond with more wisdom and less ego because you're not rushing to defend yourself. You're tuned into what's really going on. That kind of listening only grows in a person who knows how to be silent with themselves first. In a world that rewards constant noise, silence is an act of strength. Choosing to turn off the TV, put down the phone, step away from the argument, and sit with your own thoughts is not easy. It takes courage to face yourself without distractions. But when you do, you gain clarity other people don't have. You stop living by reaction and start living by intention. You stop moving just because everyone else is moving and start moving because you know where you're going. And that direction, that inner compass, is something you only truly hear when you've learned to respect the power of silence. Silence is a strategy because it's a choice you make on purpose, not something that just happens to you. When you decide to go quiet in a loud situation, you're not backing down. You're taking control. Most people think the person who talks the most, yells the loudest, or posts the quickest is the one in power. But the real power often belongs to the one who knows when to say nothing and let the room, the moment, and the truth do the work. In conflict, silence can completely flip the dynamic. When someone comes at you heated, raising their voice, blaming, trying to bait you into a fight, the usual reaction is to fire back. You match their energy, they turn it up more, and suddenly nobody's listening. It's all about winning. But when you decide, I'm not going to argue like this, and you go quiet, you take the fuel out of their fire. You stop feeding the drama. Your silence says, if we can't talk like adults, I won't talk at all. That's a strategic move. You're not ignoring the issue. You're refusing to handle it in a way that cost you your dignity and peace. In negotiation and business, silence is one of the sharpest tools you can use. When you've said your terms, your price, your conditions, your value, and then you stop talking, most people can't handle that quiet. They start backtracking, over-explaining, or giving away more than they planned just to fill the silence. But if you stay calm and quiet, you force the other side to reveal more information, show their real position, or reconsider what they're offering. You're not being passive, you're gathering insight. That pause after you speak can be the difference between getting what you deserve and settling for less. In relationships, silence can be a strategy for shifting the pattern. Maybe you've always been the one to fix everything, to text first, to apologize first, to smooth things over after every fight. They've gotten used to you doing all the emotional labor. When you finally go quiet, not with attitude, but with intention, you're changing the rules. You're saying without words, if this relationship matters to you, you're going to have to show it. I won't carry it alone anymore. That silence pushes the other person to reveal how much effort they're truly willing to make. When it comes to your dreams and goals, silence can protect your progress. Not every plan needs a public announcement. Some moves are stronger when they're made in private. No audience, no pressure, no outside opinions. You work, you study, you build, you save, you heal quietly. You don't argue with people who doubt you. You don't waste time proving anything. You let the results announce themselves when the time is right. That's strategy. Talking about it feels good in the moment, but doing it in silence pays off in the long run. On social media and in everyday life, silence keeps you from getting dragged into distractions. Every comment doesn't need a comeback. Every insult doesn't deserve a reply. Every time someone tries to pull you into nonsense, you have the option to say nothing and keep scrolling, keep walking, keep working. Your silence says, I'm not lowering myself to this level. I've got bigger things on my mind. That isn't weakness. It's discipline. It's knowing you have more to lose than they do. Silence is also strategy because it helps you listen better. When you're not rushing to respond, you can pay attention to what people are really saying and sometimes what they're not saying. You see patterns. You notice red flags earlier. You catch details others miss because they're too busy talking. That awareness gives you an edge in business, in relationships, and in life. And sometimes silence is how you reset the entire system. You step back, stop explaining, stop arguing, stop advertising your moves. You watch, you listen, you think, you plan. Then, when you do speak or move, it's intentional, sharp, and effective. That's what makes silence a strategy. It's not empty, it's preparation. Silence has limits because there are moments in life when saying nothing is not wisdom. It's surrender. There are situations where your silence doesn't protect your peace. It protects the problem. It protects the abuser, the bully, the manipulator, the system that's hurting you or others. In those moments, staying quiet is not strength. It's a cage. You are not meant to be silent about abuse. If someone is putting their hands on you, tearing you down mentally, controlling your every move, threatening you, or making you feel unsafe, that is not a situation for quiet endurance. That is a situation for help, for voice, for action. Silence in abuse is often built on fear and shame. What will people think? Maybe it's my fault. Maybe it will get better. But pain that's kept in the dark doesn't heal, it festers. Speaking up, reaching out to a trusted friend, a counselor, a hotline, the authorities is not betrayal, it's survival. Your safety matters more than anyone's image, reputation, or comfort. You are also not meant to be silent about injustice. When you see someone being mistreated because of their race, gender, religion, background, or status, your silence can feel like agreement to the one doing the harm. You may think, it's not my business, or I don't want to get involved. But if you were the one on the receiving end, you would hope somebody would say something. Speaking up doesn't always mean starting a public fight. Sometimes it's pulling someone aside, reporting what you saw, or simply saying, "That's not okay." Your voice might be the difference between a pattern continuing and a line being drawn. You are not meant to stay silent about your worth either. If you're underpaid, overlooked, or constantly disrespected at work, silence won't magically fix it. People can become very comfortable with you doing more for less if you never speak up. Sometimes you have to ask for that raise, that promotion, that credit. You have to put your qualifications and contributions on the table and say, "This is what I bring. This is what I deserve." That's not arrogance. That's self-respect. If you don't advocate for your value, you leave room for others to undervalue you by default. The same is true in relationships. If your needs are never spoken, they will rarely be met. You can't expect someone to read your mind, know your triggers, or guess what hurts you. Silence can turn into quiet resentment, and quiet resentment eventually explodes or shuts down completely. Speaking up, "This bothers me. I need more of this. I can't accept that," is how you give love a chance to grow in a healthy direction. If you never say what you need, and they never even get a chance to respond or adjust, you're both living inside a story that hasn't been honestly told. Your mental and emotional health is another place where silence has to be broken. So many people suffer in secret, anxiety, depression, burnout, trauma, because they're afraid to be judged or misunderstood. They put on a strong face, crack jokes, show up for everyone else, and then crumble alone. Silence in this area can be deadly. Admitting, "I'm not okay," telling a trusted person you're struggling, seeking therapy, or asking for time to rest is not weakness. It's one of the strongest, bravest things you can do. You are not a burden for having feelings. You are human. Wisdom is knowing when silence is power and when silence is bondage. If your quiet is protecting your peace, your growth, your dignity, that's healthy. But if your quiet is protecting someone else's abuse, lies, or mistreatment of you or others, that silence is costing too much. Your voice was given to you for a reason. Use it to set boundaries, to call out wrong, to ask for help, to express your truth. Silence has its place, but so does speaking up. You deserve a life where you are not just quietly surviving, but boldly living.